Okay, so we are at the beginning of Module 5, Lesson 5.1a. You can do your notes on pages 6 and 7, or you could write these on a separate piece of paper. So the lesson is on converting decimal to fraction conversions and place value. So the definition of place value is the value of where the digits is in the number, such as units, tenths, hundreds, etc. So for example, if you have the number 4,523, so each of these numbers have a place value. So 4, for example, would be in the thousands place. 5 would be in the hundreds place. 2 would be in the tens place. And 3 would be in the ones place. So each of these numbers has a place value. A digit is any number between 0 and 9. Okay, so any number can be a digit. So if I have 347, each of these numbers, the number 3 is a digit, 4 is a digit, and 7 is a digit. So each of these are digits, and then they also each have a place value. Okay, so let's take a look if I have a number. Okay, so I have 2 and then a decimal, so and then 4, 5, 1, and 3. So each of these has a place value. Okay, so 2 would be in the ones place. Okay, so anything to the right of the decimal would be, for example, 4 would be the tenths place, and it has a THS at the end. 5 would be in the hundredths place, so it has a THS at the end. 1 would be the thousandths place. And then 3 would be in the 10,000ths place. Okay, so anything to the right of the decimal has a THS ending. Anything to the left, so 2 would be in the ones place if I add more to it. So let's say I add 9. This would be 92. 9 would be in the tens place. So I have 92 and 4,513 10,000ths. Then if I keep adding to my decimal, I would have 892. So 8 is in the hundredths place, or hundreds. So 892 and 4,513 10,000ths. Then I could add to the left and be in the thousands place. So 7 would be in the thousands. So I would say 7,892 and, so the decimal point, when you read the decimal point, you read it as and. 4,513 10,000ths. So I could keep adding to my number, and I could be in the 10,000s. So this would be 67,892 and 4,513 10,000. That's how we'd read this number. Okay, so take a moment to write that down. Feel free to pause the video at any time. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples. In number 1, it says what digit is in the tens place in the number. So the number that's highlighted is what they're asking you for. And maybe highlighting is not going to work here. So I'm going to circle it. So 7 is underlined. So if you look back, 7 is in the tens place. So you could write that as 7 tenths. So now it says what digit is in the thousands place. So 4 is the one that's underlined. So this would be read as 4,000. So number 3, it says what digit is in the ones place. So these aren't underlined for us. So the ones place would be right before the decimal. So that would be 7. So 7 ones. Okay, what digit is in the tenths place? So the tenths place is right after the decimal point. So that would be 2. So this would be 2 tenths. Notice that after the decimal point, your words end in THS. Now it says what number is in the hundredths, or what digit is in the hundredths place. So hundredths place would be 2 place values after the decimal point. So that would be 5. So this would be 500ths. Well, you can just say 5, and then how you would read that would be 500ths. And then it says what digit is in the ones place. So the ones place is right before the decimal point, so it'd be 9. So this would be 9 ones. Okay, so in 7 through 9, we're going to identify the underlined place value. So the number prior to the decimal point is 6, and that's the one that's underlined. So this is 6 ones. So it's the ones place. In number 8, we have 2 numbers after the decimal point. So that would be 500ths. So the place value that's underlined would be the hundredths place. Okay, in number 9, the digit right after the decimal point is the tenths place. So this is 1/10. So we're looking at the tenths place. Okay, now in 10 through 11, you want to write down how you would say this number. So 1 is in the hundredths place, 2 is in the tenths place, 3 is in the ones place, then we have our decimal point, so it would be and, 4 would be in the tenths place, and then 5 would be in the hundredths place. So this number would be 123 and So and is the decimal point, 45 hundredths. Since your last value of 5 ends in the hundredth place, then that's the word that you would have to write out. Number 11, you have 98 and 743. The last digit ends in the thousands place, so you'd say 98 and 743 thousandths. Okay, so since the last digit of 3 ends in the thousandths place, then that's the word that you would have to write out at the end. Okay, in 12 through 14, it says to write the numerical representation of the number. So you have 154 and 12 hundredths. So we have 154 and means your decimal point, 12 hundredths. So your last digit of 2 would end in the hundredths place. Number 13, 3,022 and 6 tenths. So you have 3,022 and means your decimal point, 6 tenths. So it'd be 6 right after the decimal point. That's where your tenths place is. Okay, number 14, we have 400 and 3 thousandths. Okay. So and we have 400 and means your decimal point, 3 thousandths. So that means we have to add zeros here before the thousandths place because 3 is the only one in the thousandths place. So we have to add zeros right before the 3. Okay, so watch out for that because remember, and means there's a decimal point in between them. Common mistake is to write 403 or something like that, okay? And then thousands, but that would be incorrect. Okay, so read those problems carefully. Okay, number 15 says to say the number out loud, then write the number as a decimal and as a fraction in simplest form. So 13 and 4 tenths. So 13 and means your decimal point. Then 4 tenths would be is the digit right after the decimal point, so you write 4 in the tenths place. Okay, as a fraction, this would be 13 and 4 tenths means 4 out of 10. So that's how you would write it as a fraction. And then in simplest form, we could divide the numerator and denominator by 2. So we get 13 and 2 fifths. Okay, so here are 2 answers that we're looking for. Okay, number 16, 5 and 12 hundredths. So it'd be 5 and means your decimal point, 12 hundredths. So you should end in the hundredths place. And then to write that as a fraction, it'd be 5 and 12 out of 100. So hundredths means out of 100. And now to reduce that, we can divide by 4. Divide both the numerator and denominator by 4. So we get 5, and then 12 divided by 4 is 3. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 5 and 3/25 is the same thing as 5 and 12 hundredths. Okay, number 17, 21 and 6 thousandths. So 21 and means your decimal point. 6 thousandths, so you add 2 zeros before the 6. So as a fraction, this would be 21 and 6 out of 1,000. Okay, so because 6 and 1,000 are both even, they're both divisible by 2, so you can simplify. So you'd get 21. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 100 divided by 2, 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. So you get 51. 21 and 3 out of 500 is the same as 21 and 6 thousandths. Okay, number 18, 417 and 75 hundredths. So 417 and means your decimal point. 75 hundredths. So you should have the last digit and then end in the hundredths place. So 417 and 75 hundredths means 75 out of 100. So you can reduce this fraction, divide the numerator and denominator by 25. So you get 417 and 3/4. So 417 and 75 hundredths is equivalent to 417 and 3/4.